So I've been starting this How Predators Think series, and this is a clear example of how predators think. This was supposed to be about me. They made it about themselves. By making it about themselves, they keep now trying to figure out how they can twist it to become about me. Once they've done this, now I've shown you proof that they've done this at least since 2016. They're going now with 2015, but then there's part of them that feels like, well, maybe they did in high school. Impossible. The technology didn't exist. But it shows you how predators think. They always think that someone just said get over. They can get over. That person's right. There's never a point in a predator where they think that they're finished, where they think that this is their end. I think as normal human beings, and this is part of why I have to talk about thought processes as opposed to psychology. We as normal people, we get information in, we process the information, and then we have an output. So there's an input, there's an output. I think with them, there's never really a clear output. It's always the processing information and keep processing it over and over again without a clear end. Whereas as a normal person, something happens to you, say, for example, it happened to you last year. You're not going to keep dealing with it over and over again because you've processed it already. You had an output. So when they were doing this and setting this system up for me, I think it was something that they probably dealt with before, and it wasn't something I dealt with. They put it in a way that reflects them. Like everything is a reflection on them, which is what I'm saying. Like something about them, every single thing that I would do when I'm around them is based in their minds on them. It's a reflection of them. And when they try to make it seem like it's about me, it still is about them. And so when they're lying on other people and saying, well, it's not true. It's always about them. So I would have to always be seen as, and I said this years ago when I did a video, and I'll see if I can find it and link it in here. I would be an extension of them. I would never be my own human self. It would always be like something they're thinking. They'll always try to put their thoughts on me. But again, it goes back to the input output. If I'm living my own life, I have different things being put into me. They have different things being put into them. We don't have the same input. And this goes back to they cut me off on a video I was doing yesterday where I talked about growing up as a descendant of West Indians and how we still have West Indian relatives coming into our lives. So I would always be around the accent. The island Antigua Barbuda, they're part of Britain. So I would always be around people who have some connection to Britain. It wouldn't be a big deal to me. So in their input, they said, well, I never told them this. So meaning it's not about me, it's about them. And it's hard for me to understand what does that have to do with anything? Like, how does that affect anything? Does it change anything? No. So if the input is that I didn't tell them this, the output for them is then it can't be true. You didn't say this. How could you not tell me this? Well, what difference does it make? So that becomes my output. My output is, well, what difference does it make? So for them to keep going over and over, it means that my output would somehow change. It doesn't change anything. It's still the same. And that's part of what I'm saying. How they think is that somehow my input is going to be exactly the same as their input. If I know it, they know it. Impossible. Which means they weren't doing this all. Someone said, oh my, I can't exactly hear what the female voice just said, but she's absorbing something. Meaning her input changed based on what I output. Meaning what I just said affected her input. Which is part of what I'm saying about the thought process. The thought process for them is that this was supposed to look like it was always happening. It couldn't have been. It was also supposed to make me seem like I'm insane. I can't be insane if people made me a key holder to open up and have control over something so valuable. I'm not insane. I've never been insane. So if we're going to now try to make a 50-year-old me seem insane by going back in time and pretending that my family came from, I don't know where now they're saying. They said, well, what about in 2007 when we had people working on changing out our windows, which was a mess and still is a mess. I was talking to someone and explained why I had a love for the Spanish language years ago. And this is going back to what they can't understand. They want to say that I've changed. My sense of self will always be the same. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of how predators think. Predators think that people change who they are on the self level. And I say, and just like I don't believe in this leading from behind nonsense, I don't believe in people change from their sense of self either. People are who they are. So if you meet someone and he or she is something that you don't like, you're not going to change that person into something you want them to be. Again, it goes back on input, output. People tell you who they are. And this goes, and they're saying something now. Again, I can't hear them. This goes back to what I've been saying. Even if my family has any connection to Latin America, it doesn't make us Latinos. And this is what I keep telling people. It doesn't change they said culture. It doesn't change how I was raised. And it doesn't change the basic of who I am as a person. So going back, I talked about the story before, so I'm not going to keep going over the same thing, which is that's what they want. They want this constant output, output, output. But output requires, in my case, input. This is the same nonsense over and over and over and over and over again. So they said this won't change anything about them being Latino. They're not all Latino. So this doesn't cover every Latino. Again, the way we phrase things change over my 50 years of life. Someone could be Spanish and we thought it meant Spanish, but people from Spain would say they're not Spanish. Someone could be Hispanic and we thought it meant being from Spain, meaning that things have changed. Our sense of selves stayed the same, but the world around us changed. Does that mean we changed? No. It means that your sense of self stays the same. Your thought process, how you input information stays the same. The world changed. And I don't understand why that's confusing them. They'll admit when we grew up 50 years ago, we didn't have this phone thing that takes pictures and videos and talks back to us. AI is changing the world right now. So why would that even be confusing? It's not. But for them, I think it is. Because I feel that their way of inputting information is so distorted. Not input, output. More like input, 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 input. Too much input and not enough output. That to me is a problem. It's the way a predator thinks. A predator, and they just said obsess. A predator will keep inputting more information, more information, more information, more information. But the output should be not to continue to obsess over someone, which is what they just said, obsess, but to realize that this isn't working. Maybe we'll do something else. But if they are obsessed with this thought that I was part of gang stalking people, I wasn't. They said I was prank calling people. I wasn't. They said, well, we used to say growing up crank, meaning call and prank together. Again, I don't understand what any of this has to do. If you just listen to what I've been telling you that they're saying, it doesn't make sense to the conversation. But it does show how a predator thinks. A predator thinks that if they keep filling me with input, attack, 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 my output will reflect that. Meaning their input is attack you, attack you, attack you, attack you, attack you. And at some point, your output will be something different. But again, your sense of self determines your output. So if my sense of self says I'm just going to keep documenting it, reporting it, documenting it, reporting it, I'm not going to go on the attack. They said, well, isn't this, again, that's how they are. They keep putting me in that category of them. I don't change. Part of why it was important to start naming names is to tell you folks the truth. And I'll use Felisha's card to me again as a thumbnail. Stay sweet. At no point was I not that type of person. So for them to think at 50 years old, they just said provoke, to change my output, change my sense of self. That's what Felisha wrote to me when we were teenagers. It was 1989, so I would have been 15 going to turn to 16. It was who I was. When the incident happened in 1991 and they lied and said I was trying to gossip when I was really trying to solve this same problem, it destroyed my relationships with certain people. But those weren't people I was supposed to have be around anyway. I'm going to end this video. I'll do another video later. Thank you for watching.